that's been rife with, we'll say, less than honorable strategies historically. So what would be some advice for someone seeking out SEO services in 2019?
Well, I mean, if somebody approaches you via email or knocks on your door or gives you a call, and the opening line is, I can get you on the first page of Google in X amount of time, then, I mean, that's an automatic disqualification, because you're basically dealing with a snake oil salesman, because there's no time frame. I mean, you can give an estimate based on if it's a new website in a non-competitive niche and you're going to do XYZ in the next 6 months, you can get an idea. But promising a first page ranking for like the money term within that industry is super sketchy. Going by the body of work. So not only looking at, online reviews, but giving that person or agency some other background information, or they provide you a specific client, not only testimonials on their website, but maybe talking to the clients that they currently have that like is a new client that's been a client with them, let's say for 6 months, for a year, if it's 5 years, something across the path, and how they've interacted and some of the results that they've received. Because ultimately you want to look for somebody that cares about your business as much as you do. And a lot of agencies, small or big, are churn and burn. Sometimes they have cookie cutter products that's like you get 10 links, you get 2 pages, you get a blog post, you get 1 social media post every week. And like that doesn't, serve a need for a business. A business may need, 10 blog posts on specific pain points that affect, homeowners and so region. Like you have to have somebody that customizes a campaign to you and cares enough to be an extension of your business.
Oh, for sure. Those pro tips, because it sounds like I've worked with folks in the past that have been burned, where they're using maybe outdated strategies, or they've gotten themselves into situations where they were just taken for some cash, with a one size fits all type solution, like you mentioned. And so it sounds like for like a real strategy, you need to have somebody that's, like you mentioned, that care about your business as much as you do, more or less. And because I think that especially in the SEO, the reputation of the SEO company is particularly good, or important.
No, that's definitely true. And like my reputation and what makes me and what I carry. So I turn down things all the time. And in the past, I've had a consulting session where, I think it was like 4 years ago, where I met with people and they paid me flat out. I wanted X amount for X amount of consulting time. We met, basically wanted attacked some kind of nitrogen rig energy company in Peru. So basically they wanted a government contract in Peru, and there was one competitor. So they wanted to write like 10 articles, spin them a little bit differently that are all negative, and then just blast hundreds of variations of negative kind of fake news or propaganda and optimize them to get them to rank for people looking in the United States to make investment, and for government employees in Peru. So stuff like that is just like super out there, but you have to kind of do the ethical thing. And I've turned down plenty, or left plenty of money on the table that I knew either that even clients, if you meet with a client, if you're speaking from a professional side and you see what they're doing, if you do some background information on that prospect, that they're super sketchy, they're being sued for like unethical stuff, like that'll catch up to you. Like that short-term money, if you leave it on the table, will probably benefit you more in the long run, because you're not associating yourself with, a sketchy situation.
Yeah, no, that makes all the sense in the world. Last thing you want to be is associated with, like, I'll say the Trump University type of situation. You know what I mean? Because there's I remember that one being, well, because it was relevant politically, but the back in 2008, 2009 was when that whole shit started happening. It was everywhere. And it was obviously like we'll say questionable industry, questionable type of thing that was taking place. And I mean, you don't want to have your name or your company's name be associated with something that's going to get negative press, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't go because there's stuff also. So reputation management through obviously PR and search engine optimization. So there's been instances where, this person's come out with a book, but this person's done like shady stuff in their personal lives that has come to question that affects their professional. So some of the stuff, like if it's true, you cannot take it down. Like it's not slander, it's not unethical. And some of the people that have this information, once it's on the internet, if it's somewhere, it can live there forever. So basically, companies do reputation management in the sense that where they try to build up websites that focus on combating terms or related term to first name, last name, and scandal, and either spinning it in a positive light or highlighting positively PR stuff, where they create all these multiple websites and basically try to rank them over the negative stuff that are in the search results and push the negative, PR off of the first page, basically.
Yeah. So that because I know what you're saying, because you bury it with other news.
Yep. And it's to the point where like you're more likely not to click to the fourth or fifth page. You're more likely to look at the first and second page, mainly the first, if you're doing some background information. So even like, okay, you have a guest on your podcast, you want to get some information, Google their name, you usually look at the first page. If there's relevant articles, links to their social media, if obviously there's a red flag about, so-and-so is indicted for so-and-so, it will show up on the first page. And oftentimes if it's like a criminal charge, it's a .gov site, .gov domains have, command high authority in terms of website authority. So something like that is super tough to get rid of. So, don't be a criminal.
So like if you get a DUI and you're on the government website for because in Maricopa County, where I'm from, in Arizona, historically, when you got in trouble, your mugshot would be on the internet. And like if you were Googled, like your information was out there. And then the other thing is you have all those, like if you do Google somebody, right, and then all there is those like weird ass like background check type of domains, right, where there's more or less not really any information, because I've seen that more often than I have in my adventures. Someone that has a damaged profile, we'll call it, is more often if they don't have anything.
Yeah, in that sense, it's you want to make sure or fact check how an individual or business, how they're branding themselves online, if they're branded, if they're what they say matches up to who they are in real life, versus also that it lines up to if there's a presence digitally. So if somebody contacts you to be a guest and they're the leading expert about this topic and they won this award, you can say anything you want, but you can easily track down anything in 2019. So basically verifying something, but like you said, somebody's more likely to have nothing. And I think it's important in 2019, regardless of your business or who you are as a professional, to both build your professional brand and business brand. If both of those tie, then tie them together, because even if you're working for someone else, you can be building that brand up as well as yours as an expert in your field at the same time.
I see. That's powerful, dude. That's really powerful. You got me thinking about it now. I got to go check out all my own shit.
Yeah, and sometimes you find like nuggets. I was recommended as top social media influencer for 2018 by some website that was, I think it's People Maven, but like an AI bot came to that conclusion. So they had crawling accounts based on follower counts and the amount of content you put out and the type of content. So, it was one of those things where it's like, all right, whatever, but it's like, it was a little like nugget that you found that you may have not even been aware of.
Right. No, now that I'm thinking about it now, because I just Googled my name while you were talking about it. And I'm like looking for some just weird shit that might exist. But a lot of it's just my podcast. That's
yeah, a lot of it's podcasts. A lot of it is interviews like I've done about agency or digital marketing stuff. A lot of it is like my website, social channels. It's nice to see like when people say they're going to promote it a certain way, I can see where, they've pushed the episode to. So their personal blogs, some of the guests that I have on, other assets where they'll take the YouTube video and upload it and obviously have an embedded version. So it's nice to see how people share and what they do versus what they say and what they do.
For sure. I'm gonna dig into it, man, because I feel like I create a bunch of content with these podcasts and I don't think I'm capitalizing on it as much. I really don't.
Every time like a episode releases, the first few days and usually within like the first week or two, I'll try to track and see what that guest has done, how they obviously has promoted it or self-promoted it. Not that I force guests to do X, Y, Z. I, usually say, to your own discretion, here's the assets, promote it or, push people to it as you will or don't. But it's nice to see because some of the guests that I didn't expect to get as much traction, some of the smaller ones, push more in terms of the heavy PR promotion of their episode versus some of the people that may have had, 200, 300,000 followers on Instagram and have a verified account that did like absolutely nothing.
I see what you're saying. I definitely noticed that now. I mean, I think the way that's generally approached is if you make the assets, here you go, you make it easy for someone to do something right, put together like images or like word snippets, things like that can be used easily rather than relying on them to create their own shit, I guess would be the way to say it. Because like you were saying, not everybody's going to promote, but if you make it easy for them to do it, you increase the likelihood that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I do it universally. I send a media kit. So this is basically baselining what you do on your end when you're providing everything you can possibly have to cross-promote it.
Okay.
So they literally have a image they can use as just a general image of the podcast itself, or I've been on so-and-so podcast. They have a image with them, an episode image that they can use as still image on social. They have links to the YouTube as well as everywhere the episode is found. And then they have a dynamic version basically of an audio overlay clip over the episode image with captions. So they literally are handed all the assets on a silver plate, and it's up to their discretion how they want to push it or what they want to do with it.
Now, do you use any tools to help or assist with that process? Describe that.
Like for the audio, and like I reverse engineer and use it for transcriptions also, because in the process of adding the captions, it creates a transcript based on the snippet that you're highlighting of the audio. But if you select the whole episode, kind of manipulate the process, you get a free indirect value of getting a full transcript created that you still have to vet, but it's indirectly creating a full transcript in that sense as well. But one tool is Wave, WAVVE. So basically it adds audio to still static images, and then on top of that, if you want to add captions to that audio, it adds that as well. It has different formats, so you can do it for YouTube. I do it for YouTube of every episode without captions, and then for like 60-second clips, 30-second clips to highlight certain points in all the episodes and the interviews, I utilize the audio and caption overlays as well. I know a lot of people use Headliner as well. It does similar. Yeah. A lot of podcasters use it and recommend it. I've tried it, but I think Wave is fairly does what I need it to do, and it's very clean, and I like the interface. So I've been using that for a while.
Okay, nice. Because I had been, it's hard. Like one of the things that's been stressful a little bit around the whole podcast idea is, you know, you gotta go through all the trouble to get it recorded, and it has to get edited, then you have to create all these assets, and building that process out and doing it consistently is, because I was using Headliner and for a little bit, but it's a monstrous amount of work is the way that it felt. Is Wave does so? I guess what I'm trying to say is, so like I took what I do and I built kind of like a backend solution for keeping track of episodes and guests and the assets that they have and things like that. Because I hadn't found something that did everything that I wanted to, I guess would be the way to say it.
Yep. I do the same thing. I keep track of the guests. I keep track of like what episodes they were on, what their roles are, what they do, their company, the description, their contact email, and phone number if they have it. But for Wave, it's fairly simple. Like, I mean, my process isn't necessarily fully, excuse me, automated, but it is a process that I'll follow every time. So I record the episode. I'll edit the episode. There's a certain naming convention for the audio. Then I'll create the asset. So it'll be a social media asset that basically I'll have to edit the headshot or the preferred image I'm given for the episode promo. And then I create a YouTube skin or a banner at the same time. And there's a specific naming convention whenever I make a new, audio file ready to upload to obviously the podcast platform. So all that is ready. And then when the day that it launches, the morning of or the day before, I'll take the audio and then have those images already with the naming conventions and create the 60-second clip and then create the full episode to put on YouTube as well and then launch it the same day. So that's kind of my general process. And then when all of that's out, it'll go to all the social media accounts. It goes to stories from Facebook and Instagram. It goes on all the Twitter accounts. It goes to the podcast company page on LinkedIn. It goes to my personal LinkedIn, and then everything else in terms of like the identified distribution methods that I have.
Okay. One quick question is, how do you do it on Instagram? What tool do you use for that? Because I've been struggling to find a solution that makes it like, other than logging into Instagram and then uploading the shit. Some of the post scheduling tools don't let you do video very easily, or I just don't have a good solution for that.
I mean, I've been doing it manually because some of the functionality, like you said, some of the scheduling platforms have taken it out, or they're good with static images. But when you add a video, or when it's like it turns into an MP4, when you add the audio and the caption to it, like they're horrible to do so, or they don't accept that format. So like you said, I haven't, the best thing that I've found is either myself investing the time or outsourcing, like sending over the body or the content for the post and the actual asset and having it posted it that way.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, because that's been one of the things, because I could do Facebook. Facebook's easy. YouTube, yeah. I haven't done it, but I know how to do it. All the other places, but Instagram's been kind of like a pain in the ass. And then, like you said, the scheduling tools that exist, they'll let you post images, but if you want to do video and that kind of shit, it's like the app that I most recently used, you can schedule it, but you have to have an app on your mobile phone, right? And then the phone will notify you when it's quote unquote time to post to Instagram. And then it will let you copy and paste some shit. It's stupid.
Yeah, no, if I'm on the go, I will send the social media post text in an email and then the clip as an attachment. And that is actually easier for me than, like you said, I've used methods like that too. And it's just like, yeah, it automates something, but it makes something harder that I could have just did myself.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's been my experience. And it's just it's one thing at a time, because it's a massive amount of information, especially like when you look at an episode that's as long as this one is. I mean, I actually hired a guy to chop up the audio and make Instagram and social media assets, because I'm too much of a perfectionist. So like I'll listen to something and I don't see, it's hard to pick apart which piece of the content do I want to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like right now, my podcast is scaling, and eventually, I have some monetization on it in terms of like a CPM model for ads, but
Yeah.
eventually I'll reinvest it, and that money will be promoting a podcast, and then anything else from sponsorships, like direct sponsorships and stuff, will be used to outsource and get this off my plate, because I don't have to be doing this. It's more of a labor of love and a passion project currently, because I like, meeting new people, hearing their story, and basically putting something out that basically helps them out to get their word out, and then gets me out as what my expertise is, and the fact that, I'm trying to set up this platform to give people, a chance to tell their stories.
I think that's cool, man. And this episode has been super informative for me. I've learned a bunch. Not normally, it's a different conversation I normally have, meaning that I'm more of an introduction to their topic, and then we flesh out whatever it is that's happening. And it's usually more focused around, I have to generate a lawsuit every month, right? So we talk about how they do that. And as opposed to more of the marketing side of things, but especially SEO being a topic that I've had one other guest on that talked about SEO, but he didn't go into anywhere near as much depth as you've provided, and really showcasing kind of like your expertise. I think that was it's been super helpful for me.
Yeah, not a problem. That's just like literally like top level, some of the parts of search engine optimization, because there's people in the trenches, and then there's generalists that read something and just say it. So even like now, if something needs to be done, I'll jump in and do it. But when you're looking at SEO, there's on-site, which is all the content, and some of the other stuff on the website. There's off-site, anything affecting your website, like we talked about, link building, link acquisition, PR, stuff like this is a link building effort indirectly, because in the show notes, if you link to my website or any other asset, those links are generated and then kind of syndicated based on it being replicated on all the other platforms that it's shown. So it's kind of modern day PR in terms of branding and promotion as well. And then you have the technical aspect. So how your website is built from a technical perspective, any broken links on it, different metadata in terms of title tags, description tags, using structured data to tag stuff and highlight different aspects for Google in terms of using JSON and other language for that, and stuff like voice search that includes audio. So you highlight certain things on your website, and let's say Google HomePod will pick it up in terms of Google if you're asking HomePod for a specific suggestion. So that's kind of the next thing in terms of voice search and voice optimization for assistance, where you become the result, because you can only be one. When you ask a home assistant, give me a recommendation for so-and-so, they don't sit there, and if you're looking at a search result, you're looking at 10, 15 results. You have to be number one. So that's one of those things working in its infancy and becoming better, but that's like kind of the next step, which I'm trying to incorporate into search engine optimization and digital strategy.
That's smart. Because I know that there's a lot of factors that go into SEO that are not normal, tangible ideas, right? Like I know historically, based on where back when links were the only thing that mattered, or like slight like on-page type of stuff, with all the different like technologies that Google provides, especially with all the new search tools coming out and things like that, and being able to lend yourself to that. Now, one question comes to mind is there was that Google AMP that was going around for a while. Is that still a thing, or is that dead in the water?
It's still around. There's like with HubSpot, you can create a AMP page or AMP version automatically of your blog post per se. Yeah, so like that, there's benefit there. It's still a thing. Not necessarily everyone is focusing on it as much. It plays into facts where industries where they come up come out with a high volume of content at a high frequency. So let's say news and media websites. So something, let's say like the Wall Street Journal or a other publication that has, let's say, hundreds or thousands of articles that come out on a daily basis. That's the kind of industry it benefits. But if it's something where it's a law firm that has one blog post a month about divorce and alimony, then that's not necessarily something that I would recommend to that business to invest time in.
I see. So I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. What is the best way for people to find out more about you, Roman?
You can search my name, Roman Prokopchuk. Obviously, it's tough. So if you want to, use a voice command to do that, I guess that's easier, unless you butcher my last name. You can look at Novazora Digital. If you Google Digital Savage Experience Podcast, find me that way, or any other social media platform. And it's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure that I put links in the show description, et cetera, when this goes up, so that if people are looking for you, that they can just come to the podcast page for this episode and get your information there.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming by. And also, I will be sharing out the episode that I was on of the Digital Savage podcast, so that way, if you want to hear our conversation over there, that you'll be able to do that.
Great. That sounds great.
All right, man. Well, that's it for this episode of the Get Automated podcast. I'm Kelsey Bratcher. Bye-bye. This has been another badass episode of the Get Automated podcast with Kelsey Bratcher. For show notes, please go to getautomated.co/podcast for the latest episodes and updates. Also, sign up for the Get Automated newsletter to get updates regarding upcoming podcast episodes, tips and tricks, as well as the latest tools and updates curated by yours truly, Kelsey Bratcher.